Let's look at a couple of quick examples. 80% of 200 is how much? It's basically 80 by 100 of 200, which is 160. What is 100% of 500? 100 by 100 into anything would be that number itself. Notice that 100% of anything is the number itself. What is 0% of 1000? That's 0 by 100 into 1000. Doesn't matter what you're multiplying, you have a 0 in there, so it's 0. 0% of anything is 0. 350% of 400. Can we give a number greater than 100 here? Yes, we can. 350 by 100 into 400. The zeros will cut. You have 350 into 4, which is 1400. 350% of 400 is 1400. So you want to remember this. Obviously 0% of anything is 0, 100% of anything is itself. If you have a number less than 100, your output will be less than the starting base. If your number is greater than 100, your output will be greater than the starting base, obviously. Now let's just look at the first one. 80% of 200 is 160. 160 is 80% of 200. I just want to point out that if you have any two of these numbers, you can find the third one. So the question was, what is 80% of 200? Now I'm just going to call it the base, the scaling factor, and the final value. It could be anything. I'm just calling it that for now. Now notice that earlier when we did 80 by 100 into, I'll just write it separately, 80 by 100 into 200, instead of just cutting with the base itself, what is this value? 80 by 100 is 0.8. So 80%, 80% as a percentage, when you rewrite as a number or a scaling factor that you're multiplying, it just becomes 0.8. And something like 120% would become 120 by 100, 1.2. If you want to find 350% of something, just multiply it by 3.5. You should understand how to immediately convert a percentage into what is the number that I've multiplied. And this becomes more important when we deal with percentage changes that is coming up. Anyways, let's go back to this. Now, the question that was given earlier was, what is 80% of 200? But I could also ask you, 160 is 80% of what number? It's the same thing, but I've just written 160 is 80%. I've just changed the unknown, right? So just write the equation. 160 is equal to 0.8 into x and solve for x. When you solve for x, you will get 160 by 0.8, which turns out to be 200. That is the answer. And you could also ask this question: what is 160 is what percent of 200? You could write 160 is equal to x into 200 and solve for x. You will get 160 by 200. That's the fraction. This becomes 0.8. To convert that into a percentage, into 100%, because that's technically 1, and then you'll get 80%, and that would be your answer. So the same idea of, you have a base, you are finding a certain percentage of it, and you'll get a final value. It's just a formula connecting three parameters. You have any two, you can find the third one. It doesn't matter which one is the unknown. You just put that directly into a multiplication formula and find the unknown. That is all. Let's look at a few more quick examples. 520 is what percentage of 400? So 520 is x times 400. X is how much? It's 520 by 400. So all you have to do is take the fraction and convert it into a percentage by multiplying with essentially 1. We're multiplying by 100%. So you have 0, 0, 0, 0 cut, 52 by one more 0 cut, right? Yes, 52 by 4 is 13. 13 into 10 is 130%. Now, just want to point out that you don't have to write this. You can directly write the fraction given. 52 is what percentage of 400? If 52 by 400 is a fraction, what would that be as a percentage? Into 100%. That is all it is. The next one, 560 is what percentage of 700? The answer is 560 by 700. The fraction should be converted into a percentage. Cut the two zeros, cut the two zeros. 56 by 7 is 8, so you have 80%. Next one, 225 is 150% of what number? 225 is 150% is just 1.5 of what number? X. X would be 225 by 1.5, which will turn out to be 150. One more, 720 is 90% of what number? 720 is 0.9 times what number? That number would be 720 by 0.9, which should be 800.